wanders. All right, so Solomon having all the wisdom, having all the resources, times the soul wanders. You ask me why? Well, it's in our own DNA. It's our own sin nature, right? It says in Psalm 119, the soul clings to the dust. Why does it do that? I don't know, but that's what it does, right? And this is why we're here, right? We're here to learn more of Him, not ourselves.
So it's in the presence of
In the presence of infinite wisdom, in the presence of infinite wisdom, the soul wanders. T's gonna call me Margaret. All right, number 6. What is the mode or the model when the child is in the home?
obedience.
Number 6 is obedience. Yep. All right, number 7. What guides the child when he's in the city? What guides the child?
What's taught in the house?
Right, but there's a word there in the slide.
Honor.
Honor, yes.
But I also put there the foundation.
Yeah, yeah, I would accept both of those, but in the slide it said honor. So yeah, no, you're both right. All right, number 8, reproof means correct. Yeah, but what does it do mostly? Reproof. Repeats, right? A constant reminder. A constant reminder. We need it again and again and again and again. Because we are humans, right? And I love in the reproof, it can come a different way. And it also can come in a fresh way, right? So don't get familiar for what you hear. Okay, I know the story about Noah and the flood. Okay? But if you come with an attitude of familiarity, it's like, oh, you're not going to catch anything fresh, right? But then if you say, oh, Lord, can you show me something different? Or can you reproof? Can you help me to see it in a different light? That's when it becomes fresh, you know? All right, number 9. In Proverbs 5, 15 through 18, what does cisterns refer to? In Proverbs 5, 15 through 18.
Like your own woman?
Yeah.
When you just, instead of like trying other women
Yes.
before you marry, just focus on what you have at home.
That's it.
Married or wait for what God has for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And she said it to PG-13. This is the rated R. Don't sleep around. Okay, save yourself for one person, right? There's a blessing. I shared the 2 stories about my sister-in-law and brother-in-law, and the words that my sister-in-law said to her future husband. It was like, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, there was a couple of tears that went down, but it's beautiful when someone saves themselves for that one person. And I just alliterate, she tells them like, Teo, you were right. You were right. This is better. You know, this is better. Okay. Number 10. Concerning relationships, Proverbs 27, 17 through 19. What are 3 things in a short description of those things? What are the 3 things mentioned in Proverbs 27, 17 through 19? What's that?
Iron.
Okay, iron. And what did we say about iron?
Or earth, it causes a spark.
Yeah.
There's friction against people, they can learn from each other,
Yeah.
strengthen each other.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and those exchanges are important, right? And then the next one.
Fig tree.
What's that?
Fig tree. Tree.
No, it's not fig tree.
I said I have investment written down.
Yeah, investment. Yeah,
Okay.
it's investment. Yeah, and what did we say about that?
Take care of an investment for profitability.
Yeah, take care. Okay, and then we said about relationships, right? Investing in relationships are important, right? We said that, like, it helps in the relationships you keep, like, invest in time and yeah, so we said that. All right. And then lastly, reflection, and what we said there. What did we say about reflection? It's okay, it's okay. Just want to make sure. I think I left mine upstairs too. Oh, wow. I left mine upstairs
Is that
too.
the one that if you no different match and you don't correct them? Is that the example you gave?
That was
Doesn't
for another part, but where reflection is, even in that proverb, where is it, 27:18, 19, sorry. As in the water face reflects the face, so a man's heart reveals the man.
Oh, reflect on the inside then.
Yeah, so I think, I don't know, I don't have it right in front of me, but we said something about that, about the reflection. Oh, yeah, I think, was it about the relationships?
As water reflects, the heart reflects.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I think it has to do with the heart. Right?
Yeah, right. So again, this is about concerning relationships. So heart reflects the heart. Okay. So
Does that mean what's in your heart?
yeah,
Fear. That doesn't mean
Right.
it's in other people.
right.
Or it doesn't mean like say so is he.
Right. No, absolutely. And the importance of having iron sharpen iron, the importance of investing in time in that relationship, and then what reflects is what comes out, or reflects back to you. So, and yes, if you don't, I said that in a little phrase. I said if you never had a disagreement with your best friend, or people that you're close with, you're really not close. And there's times where they will correct you in love, and there's times that they're not always going to say yes to what you say, and that's okay, you know. And that's the way. That's a better way, right? Just to, because they have the Holy Spirit, they have the spirit of correction, you know. One thing I appreciate about, not just my wife, but my friend in Baltimore, Pastor James. There's times I can say something and then he's like, I don't know if that's right. I don't know if that's how you should phrase it, or that's how you should say it, or that's what you should do, you know. Times when I'm wrong, right? And there's a lot of times, especially with the missus, he would tell me, hey, you need to get it right, you gotta apologize, you gotta do what you gotta do, to get it right the ship, And so, yeah, I need friends like that, I need a friend who reminds me of the things that I have in my life are precious, not only to me, but to God, and I should be taking care of that. Okay? All right. Bible Survey 2, Spring 2025, Ecclesiastes. So we're going to do Ecclesiastes tonight, so if you don't mind, Ecclesiastes 1, verse 8. This one verse 14 years ago changed my life. And so this is a very revealing verse. Every time I visit, every time it's different. And it's ironic because it was the same room that it was revealed to me by a visiting pastor. And now I'm reading this 14 years later. All right, so Ecclesiastes 1 verse 8. All things are full of labor. Man cannot express it, and the eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. I'll say that last part. The eye is not satisfied with singing, nor the ear filled with hearing. Pastor Bailey once said, Ecclesiastes is the question, and the rest of the Bible is the answer. And the question is, can I be fulfilled here on earth? Is there purpose for my life? Is there purpose for others? Or can I find satisfaction? These are the questions that every man have in their heart. Again, Ecclesiastes is the question, but the rest of the Bible is the answer. In Ecclesiastes, we will hear words of emptiness. And then we also are doing Ecclesiastes and Song of Solomon tonight. So it's emptiness, and then there's fullness with Song of Solomon. Okay, so I'll just say that again. Ecclesiastes is emptiness, and then Song of Solomon is fullness, all right? So you ask this question, like, when did Solomon write this? Did he write this in his youth or his old age, after his vanity life? Not really mentioned, but I'm happy he wrote the book. Because again, that one verse changed everything. I was like, that's where I'm at. I'm not satisfied. At that time, I'm 22 years of living in the earth, and I wasn't satisfied. And this verse just really made my heart like look. I wanted to look for God. I wanted to search for God in a deep way. All right, so it's gonna be a good night. Okay, so let's begin. Ecclesiastes, the search for fulfillment. The title, the preacher of the assembler. Searching and doubting. This is what they were searching and doubting. And to note here, on the most prosperous days, or the most high days of Solomon, there's no wars, there's so much peace. So what's happening in this time? He's assembling libraries, right? People were actually searching for wisdom. And we know of 1 Kings 3, where Solomon is asking for wisdom. And then we know that people travel all the way in the region just to witness this wisdom. But libraries were being assembled here. All right? Wisdom was being mentioned and searched at that time. Meaning, again, satisfaction. Can I find satisfaction on this earth? Can I be fulfilled? Can I find fulfillment? The word from in Ecclesiastes, the great shepherd. So let's turn to Ecclesiastes 12:11, if you don't mind. Ecclesiastes 12:11. And Ecclesiastes 12:11 says, "The words of the wise are like goads, and the words of the scholars are like well-driven nails given by one shepherd." Here, the great shepherd, or the one shepherd here mentioned is Jesus Christ. And a goad is like a stick. It's a tool that they use to draw the sheep. All right, so this was what the shepherds would use, a stick, to draw the sheep with, the goads, right? And so fulfillment is found in the words that comes from the great shepherd. All right, so just keep that mental note about the goads, and the connection to Christ. Okay. Christ in Ecclesiastes, the highest good, the ultimate fulfillment, the one shepherd that we said previously, water for the thirst for happiness, wisdom of God, fulfills the desire for knowledge. All right, so Christ is in this book. Obviously, he's just not simply just plain out saying that it's there, but you can find him here. Water for the thirst for happiness. I have it. Christ is the water of life that quenches our thirst for happiness. You can say that's kind of contrary. Like, I thought my point of living was to be happy. No, it quenches that. It's like, no, it's fulfillment. It's not about happiness. We know in emotions, happiness comes and goes. The fulfillment is everlasting. That's why he says in John 10:10, I'm not just giving you life, I'm giving you abundant life. That's a little add-on to what others are doing, okay? If you don't mind to turn to Ecclesiastes 3:11. Ecclesiastes 3:11. And it says here, "He has made everything beautiful in its time. Also, he has put eternity in their hearts, except that no one can find out the work that God does from the beginning to the end." All right? He has made everything beautiful in its time. Also, he has put eternity in their hearts. Without Christ, there's no satisfaction, there's no fulfillment. And notice in this verse, it says eternity. It doesn't say where. So we live forever. It doesn't say where. It doesn't say heaven or hell. Right? Man does live forever. And obviously it's there, it's a free will, right? It's that choice that they have to make. And wisdom of God and fulfills desires for knowledge. And this is why we look at Ecclesiastes and what happens when we eat from the knowledge of good and evil. And this is the result of what Adam and Eve committed to. They ate the apple of the knowledge of good and evil, and then this happens. Unfulfillment, unsatisfaction, all right? Okay, so, key words, all right? Grief, mentioned here, chapter 1, verse 18, chapter 2, 23. What profits, chapter 1, verse 3, chapter 3, verse 9. Fertility, and chapter 5, verse 16. Vexation is striving after the wind numerous times. Chapter 1, verse 14, chapter 1, verse 17, chapter 2, verse 11, chapter 2, verse 17, chapter 2, verse 22, chapter 2, verse 26, chapter 4, verse 4, chapter 4, verse 6, chapter 4, verse 17, chapter 6, verse 9. All right? Vexation is mentioned a few times. Under the sun, mentioned 29 times. I've counted 31, but I could be wrong. In my Bible, it says 31, but it says 29 here. So I'll just take it for now, and then I got to look that up. I got to search that myself, okay? Vanity, 35 times, okay? Kelly White said this in, I don't know, Women's Study, and I just loved it, what she said about King Solomon. He looked under the sun, S-U-N, and there was no joy, but beyond the sun, S-O-N, there is joy. All right, so vanity is living under the sun, but have an empty pursuit. I'll rephrase that quote that Kelly White said. So, King Solomon looked under the sun, S-U-N, and there was no joy. But beyond the sun, S-O-N, there is joy. All right, so shout out to Kelly White if she's watching. Vanity, living under the sun is an empty pursuit. Living under the sun, S-U-N, is an empty pursuit. And that's why God said not to eat of that tree. Like, not to eat of it. I know what it pertains. Not just separation from me, but humanity is always gonna have this cry about satisfaction and fulfillment, right? I'm that satisfaction. I'm that fulfillment. And this is Christ. So, vanity of vanity, says the teacher. Vanity of vanities, all this vanity. Ecclesiastes 1, verse 2. Now the word, again, vanity means emptiness. And this is the Hebrew word habel, H-A-B-E-L, H-A-B-E-L, habel, and means emptiness and nothingness. All right, so in our review in Judges, remember we seen the turmoil, right? Everyone did was right according to their own eyes, okay? But then there's the next book, Ruth, and that was like a book of hope, right? But then, just like Ecclesiastes, we see brokenness and emptiness. And in the next book, Song of Solomon, we see true development of life. All right, so it's kind of like, it's a kind of a repeating thing, right? Like, there's okay, in the midst of turmoil, in the midst of darkness, in the midst of people doing what's right in their own eyes, there's hope. God is setting aside a remnant of believers. God is what we said about Judges, like God always raises men and women in the time of need. Love that. Like God is always doing it. It's probably not right away like everyone anticipates or expect, but God is doing it. All right? Okay. God made Solomon great. Okay, he had great power, Ecclesiastes 1:12. He had a great estate, like the things that he owned, property and all that. Ecclesiastes 1, verse 16. He had great wisdom, Ecclesiastes 1, 17 and 18. He had great works, Ecclesiastes 2, verse 4. He had great possessions, Ecclesiastes 2, verse 7. And then he says, I'm a great person. Ecclesiastes 2 verse 9. But in the conclusion, he said, it's all vanity. It's all vanity. That's his conclusion. All right? Of being great. That's the conclusion. Okay? So the problem stated, nothing is this world brings real satisfaction. All is vanity. In chapter 1 verse 2. What profit has a man from all his labor in which he toils under the sun? Chapter 1 verse 3. What value or purpose is there for the living? What is the meaning of life? And these are big questions. And by the way, Solomon had a lot of time in his hands. He also had a lot of women. But he had a lot of time to ponder. Right? Remember we said about him pondering or organizing the Proverbs? Like he's doing that. So as Solomon continues to vent out, he realized that there was one thing that was holding them together. And it was the goads that we mentioned earlier. The nails that held them together. Again, this is Christ for us, right? That one shepherd that was holding them together. Even when he was going through all this turmoil. Even when he was making all these bad decisions. Even when he was searching in the world for satisfaction. He knew something was holding them together in that. Okay? Alright, the sandwich of satisfaction. So in Ecclesiastes 2 verse 1. And then in the bottom, so there's a sandwich, there's a slice. This is a bread, slice on the top, slice in the bottom. Amusement, possession, collections, entertainment, fame, projects, right in the middle. And it says in verse 11, like, it profits is nothing. And I love sandwiches, all right? But this is not a sandwich I want to bite into, right? Having that the top bread vanity and the bottom bread vanity. That's not a sandwich I want to bite into. But sadly, I mean, I don't know about everybody, but I know I have. I tried. I was like, where's the satisfaction? I'm not finding that fulfillment, right? My heart is not complete. My heart is not fulfilled. And, yeah. So, Solomon is going to experience these things in his life. Or in this. Okay, so thinking, Ecclesiastes 1 verse 17 and 18. He's searching fulfillment in thinking, in humor. Ecclesiastes 2 verse 2. In wine, Ecclesiastes 2 verse 3. Great works, Ecclesiastes 2 verse 4. Possessions, Ecclesiastes 2, 7 through 8. Music and arts, chapter 2 verse 8. World recognition, chapter 2 verse 9. And then pleasures in Ecclesiastes 2 verse 10. Like, he's like, okay, now let me try to find this fulfillment. And again, it's like a sandwich. It's empty. There's nothing. It's all vanity. All right? God gives us time. In Ecclesiastes 3, 1 through 8. And so, and just in the beginning, a time for every purpose under the sun, to everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under the sun, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to pluck. What it planted, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to break down, and a time to build up. And it mentions many things. So God gives us time for everything here on earth. And like we go back to Ecclesiastes 3:11, he's given us eternity, or he's given us this lifetime, I should say, a lifetime to accept him, right? If we live forever, he wants that heartbeat that he created to beat towards heaven, right? But man has his choice, right? And this is that's Pastor Stephen's quote. Your one heartbeat from eternity. Why not have that heartbeat towards God? Right? That's his quote. So, it's a beautiful thing. He's given us time, right? And, yeah, okay. Move on. What God does, he does forever. Ecclesiastes 3 verse 14, he does forever. That's the verse. And I'll read the entirety of the verse. I know that whatever God does, it shall be forever. Nothing can be added to it, and nothing can be taken away or taken from it. But God does it, and that men should fear before him. So whatever God does, he does forever. This is what God does forever. In John 8, verse 32, the truth shall set you free forever. Salvation, saved forever. Doctrine delivers forever. Grace seals forever. Love motivates forever. Faith keeps applying truth forever. Joy rests forever. Peace, God's peace forever. Everything God does, he does forever. And I love grace that seals us, right? And we hear all the people with other doctrines and say, oh, it's depending on works. No, it's his grace, and it's done forever. Like, there's no changing. You can't add to it. You can't take away from it. This is God doing, right? Whatever God does, he does forever. All right? Okay, in the search of philosophy, we mentioned that last class. There's a right one and there's a wrong one. But here, the power to enjoy riches is God-given. In Ecclesiastes 5:8 through Ecclesiastes 6:12. All right? And we can read that, actually. Ecclesiastes 6, verse 12. It says, for who knows what is good for man in life, in all the days of his vain life, which he passes like a shadow? Who can tell a man what will happen after him under the sun? Question mark. All right, so the only God can give the power to enjoy. All right, here they mention a small story about the poor wise man in chapter 9. We can turn there. In chapter 9, a couple of verses pertaining to him.
Pastor John,
Yeah.
5:18, by the way. I think.
5:18?
I think so.
Okay, so 5:18. Thank you, Dex. So Ecclesiastes 5:18, guys. Let's make that correction. Thank you for that. 5:18 to 6:12. Yep, 6:12. So 5:18. Okay, awesome. All right. So Ecclesiastes 9, 13 through 18 is a story here about the wise man. And I'm going to read it real fast. So this wisdom I have also seen under the sun, and it seemed great to me. And there was a little city, which few men are in it, and a great king came against it and besieged it, and built great snares around it. Now there was found in it a poor wise man, and he, by his wisdom, delivered the city. Yet no one remembered that same poor man. Verse 16, then I said, wisdom is better than strength. Nevertheless, the poor man's wisdom is despised, and his words are not heard. Words of the wise spoken quietly should be heard rather than the shout of a ruler of fools. Verse 18, wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one sinner destroys much good. All right, so there's a poor man, a poor wise man, right? He speaks less because he has words, but the people do not want to listen. All right, so that's just a little, a description of that. And actually, in Ecclesiastes 9, 11 through 12, I just want to read this short portion here. Just backtrack. I returned and saw under the sun that the race is not too swift, nor the battle too strong, nor the bread too wise, nor riches to men of understanding, nor favor to men of skill, but time and chance happen to them all. For man also does not know his time, like fish taken in a cruel net, like birds caught in the snare. So the sons of men are snares in the evil time, and when it falls suddenly upon them. Okay, in these two verses, Solomon is writing basically like life's unfair. Sometimes life is unfair. And in verse 11, the end of 11, like, hey, by time or chance, anything can happen. All right? And then he's saying, he's making a description in verse 12, like, hey, these things can happen to you, right? So we witness in Ecclesiastes 6:12 God's power, right? It can be enjoyed by people. Then here in Ecclesiastes 9, 11 to 12, we see here Life is not fair. And then the poor wise man, Ecclesiastes 9, verse 13 through 18, we see here again a man who was not remembered in the city, even though he helped deliver it with his wisdom. But in this conclusion of Ecclesiastes, he's telling the reader, like, rejoice in your youth, right? Remove vanity from your life. Remember your Creator. Recognize judgment is coming. All right, and if you can turn Ecclesiastes 12, we'll go right to the end in here. Ecclesiastes 12, 11 through 14. So the words of the wise are like goads, and the words of scholars are like well-driven nails given by one shepherd. And further, my son, I just froze up. I'm sorry. 1 second. Is that one I want to make? Okay, the conclusion. Okay, right to the end. 13 and 14. I'm sorry. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is man's all. In the King James, it says the whole of man. The whole of man. In verse 14, for God will bring every work into judgment, including every secret thing, whether good or evil. So this is the conclusion. It says recognize judgment is coming. And you guys know in our, oh my goodness, I forgot the class. We spoke about end times in the summer. And yes, everyone goes into judgment, but the reason why our judgment is different because Christ has paid our sacrifice. So we don't go in the judgment because of works, because Christ said it is finished. We go in on the opportunities that we missed, right? The opportunities that we've missed. And it's not, and you know, Pastor Van Doren said this too. He doesn't think it's going to be an open arena. Like it's going to be a spectacle. Like this is a personal thing. Like I've heard preachers say, oh, this is going to be a grand thing. Smoke is going to be seen and this and that. I've heard people, but I kind of like his viewpoint. Like why would God ashamed us right even to the end? You know, that's not his nature. That's not his love. So anyway.
We're new creation, right?
Right. And we're his creation now. We're reflecting that nature. There's no old sin nature. There's no past. There's no nothing, right? So we're going in because of what Christ has done. Okay? All right. So, okay, I'm going to do this. All right. The problem with the searches. Solomon on a natural adventure. All right. Lean upon his understanding. Failure to acknowledge God in all his ways. Failure to let wisdom direct his path. That sounds like a little a word that I've heard before. Let me say it again. Failure to let wisdom direct his path. What does that sound like? We said it last week. What does that kind of sound like?
Submission?
Not just submission, but it was written and we read it. He wrote it. Proverbs 3 verse 5. Right? Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he shall direct your path. He's not following his own proverb. He wrote it. But because of this book, he's not following his own ways. I mean, he's following his way, right? He wrote this book, okay? Proverbs and Ecclesiastes he wrote too. But anyway, you guys know my point, okay? All right, Ecclesiastes does not refer God. Now, remember, in Ecclesiastes 3:11, we saw God there, right? Remember, English and Hebrew are two different languages, and Arabic too, right? All the different languages. This God that's referred here is not Yahweh. Why does that make a significance? Okay, here it is. Yahweh means grace and relationship. The God who is and who draws near. The God that we see here in English is Elohim. And that means it's Elohim is mentioned, but it's the majesty and might. Okay? It's the magnetic of the universe. So basically, Solomon is using Elohim and not Yahweh because Yahweh is actually the relationship with God. So he doesn't know God. I mean, he knows God, but he doesn't. Solomon didn't have a personal connection with God in his time of grief. That's the main point, right? Actually, the main point is this: relationship with God is the matter of the issue in everything. A relationship with God is the matter of the issue. Here, Solomon is using Elohim. That's kind of disconnect to. It's still God, don't get me wrong, but it's not Yahweh. Yahweh is the one that says, remember he revealed in Exodus 3 to Moses, I am that I am, Yahweh, right? Personal connection. God is revealing to Moses at the burning bush his character and nature. But here, this book, it's Elohim, it's not Yahweh. And so Solomon didn't know God, or Solomon didn't have a personal connection with God in his time of grief. And you can say, oh, well, what's that make? Is that significant? Of course that is. Because if you're not having a perfect connection with God in the time of grief, like how do you get through it? On your own accord. How do you get through it? Saying words like, it's all vanity. How do you get through it? Man, I was chasing after the wind. Like, it's tiresome. Right? The fulfillment of your heart, never fulfilled. How do people live? I don't know. 14 years ago, I saw one verse. No eye satisfied by seeing, no ear from hearing. How did that change my perspective? Like, oh my goodness, I'm in this world and I'm not satisfied and I see this. And God's like, yeah, look beyond the sun and you'll find that fulfillment. You'll find that joy. All right? So, the book of Ecclesiastes, there's a decline, right? And the striving under the wind, this is a nice analysis graph here. But from chapter 1 all the way to chapter 12, it's just a dead decline of pursuing things, pursuing possessions, pursuing things on the world, and still not find fulfillment. Everything under the sun is vanity. Everything under the sun is not profitable. And Solomon is witnessing this. And not only that, thank God he wrote it for people like me to read years later, right? Centuries later. But anyway, the solution. The fulfillment only found beyond the sun. And from the chief shepherd in Ecclesiastes 12:11, we mentioned that one shepherd, the chief shepherd, wisdom begins with fear of the Lord. Right? And that, again, that sounds familiar. That's Proverbs 1 verse 7. He wrote it. Right? The fear of the Lord is the beginning of? Okay. All right, class. So, God has set eternity in man's heart. We just read that. Nothing temporal can fulfill that heart. And only fulfillment that can fulfill that heart is in the S-O-N. Jesus Christ himself. Right? That's the only one that can fulfill this heart of ours. Okay, so what do we do now? Or what do we need to do? Okay, so convictions affects character through conduct. Okay, dethrone God and you will lose the key to life. In his presence there is fullness of joy. Psalm 16 verse 11. This is the life eternal, that they might know thee, the only true God, in Jesus Christ, whom thou hast sent. In John 17 verse 3. And if we remove God, this is what happened. Let's turn to Job 20 verse 5. Job 20 verse 5. Remember, people are looking for happiness, right? In this world. Happiness. I want to be happy. Okay. I want to be happy. I think that's what life is, right? And people are excited. Everyone's excited in their wrongdoing. But here in Job 20 verse 5, I love this verse. The trumpeting of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite is but for a moment. Like enjoyment without God, you know what that is? It's called entertainment. But there's no fulfillment. There's no fulfillment. There's moments of satisfaction. Here in this verse, and I remember reading this in Bible college, I was like, oh my goodness, that's so good. Like everyone's wicked, everyone's enjoying, right? They're in the party, they're in the club, they want to take photos. They're like, oh, look at me, look what I'm doing, huh? Yeah, but then they don't take the photos and they bring them into the bathrooms when they're throwing up and they're sick or whatever, right? Whatever the case may be. Like, it's all excitement. It's all excitement. It's just for a moment, though. It's for a moment. It's for a moment. And the joy of the hypocrite is for a moment. So yeah, what is life without God? Entertainment. And how much man is trying to fulfill that desire in them to have that constant happiness that cannot be found under the sun, S-U-N? Can't find it. Can't find it. All right, so we conclude here. Let us hear. This is from a street, Willow Swamp Road and Savannah Highway. All right. I don't know what state, but this is where it's definitely down south. But anyway, let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep His commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Ecclesiastes 12, verse 13, which we just read. Okay. All right. Now, we're doing Song of Solomon, all right? Okay, I just want to make sure there's two little sheeps right there too, okay? I just want to make sure we clarify. My wife knows when I talk to the kids about relationships, I get funny and I'm like, man, this is going to be adults. So if you cannot have eye contact with me, that would be great, okay? This book is one of those books, okay? So the Hebrew Bible of Song of Solomon, they actually call this the Song of All Songs. That's what they call it. The Song of All Songs in the Hebrew Bible. All right? So remember I mentioned earlier that Solomon had 1,000 women, right? But in this book, he's only speaking about one. Okay? So the Bible started with man being asleep, and then a woman came out of his rib. Okay? Then Boaz fell in love with his wife Ruth. Then Zacharias loved Elizabeth. Joseph loved Mary, the mother of Jesus. That's what makes the difference. A man who loves his wife. And here, this is the book. This is the book where Solomon is speaking about one woman here. All right? So, just a small recap. Proverbs were written for the obedient will, for the reader's obedient will. Ecclesiastes is the answers, the inquiring mind, people that have questions, like what's the pursuit of life? What's my purpose? God, what all these questions, again, Ecclesiastes is the questions, the whole Bible is the answer. Song of Solomon speaks to the loving heart. All right? Now, in your Bible, and you can turn there, Song of Solomon, because we're beyond it now. In your Bible, you see this word here. Shulamite means Miss Solomon. It's just Miss Solomon. It's just addressing her in her marital state. Okay. Some readers believe this was a Palestinian woman, a young woman. I don't know how they get that, but this is what some scholars say. And Song of Solomon 1 verse 2 says this. The Shulamite said this: "Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for your love is better than wine." And this is this, like, it's nothing like it. Your kisses are like energy. The romantic part, like this book is very romantic. It's also very visual. Okay, so in this book, there's natural history book. There's 21 plants mentioned, 15 animals are identified in this song. All right, again, speaking about the one true love. And different people have lines in the presentation, okay? And notice the woman's actually dominating this conversation. But he's actually allowing her to speak first in this book, okay? All right. The purpose of Song of Solomon. Historic purpose teaches the sanctity and beauty of marriage as God intended it. The doctrinal purpose, the nature of the union between the lover and the beloved. All right? Christ in the Song of Solomon. Solomon's love for his bride is beautiful. Illustration of Christ's love for the church. Husband, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for it. Ephesians 5, verse 25. The Song's Foundations, a collection of graphic human love songs. Human life finds its highest fulfillment in the love of man and woman. The supreme thing in spiritual life is union of love between the soul and God. And I even tell my young people, not my itty bitty kids, I'm talking about the teens and beyond, like, sex is beautiful, but it's intended for marriage. There's a blessing to it, right? In Proverbs 5, remember we mentioned about the cisterns. We just said it in our review, right? Like, guys, keep your cisterns to one garden. Like, don't spread yourself around. There's no blessing in that. All right? And here's a statement Pastor Steve said here. It says, purity paves the way of passion. Purity paves the way for passion. And I know there's a lot of shows and a lot of social media will want to flip that around, right? Have the passion. That's where you get, no. Purity paves the way for passion, right? Okay, so Song of Solomon. The cool, and this is a quote here from G. Campbell Morgan. The cool, collecting, mechanical man who dislikes this book has never been in love and probably never will be. That's kind of harsh, right? But here in calculating, thank you. Calculating is, can't figure it out, right? Like, people are trying to figure out relationships. You can't figure it out, right? In Psalm 37, verse 4, and this is what I said to my young people, I said, like, stop looking for love and start searching in love, right? Because it says in that verse, he gives you the desires of your heart. Yes, in the B part of that verse. But in the A part, it says, if you delight in him, he gives you the desires of your heart, right? So start searching in love rather than looking for love. And in Ecclesiastes 5, verse 3, it says, dreams comes through much activity, right? So calculating, like, how am I calculating this romance? How am I calculating this relationship, right? I also tell my young people, it's like, they tell me, like, oh, we broke up, we're back together, we broke up, we're back. And I was like, guys, it's not complicated. it's not confusing, right? Like, don't make it harder than it is. If it is, it is. If it's not the will of God, it's not. It's not complicated, right? Like, you would know, right? All right, so songs of marriage, okay? Psalm 45, 10 through 15. And in Hosea, the prophet's message based upon the marriage relationship. Remember, in Hosea, God asked them to marry, God didn't ask. God told them to marry a prostitute, right? For him to be relatable to God of how Israel was treating him. Okay? And in Isaiah 62 is songs of marriage. This is all pertaining about marriage. But let's read Jeremiah. Let's turn there. Jeremiah 3, verse 14. We're not doing Jeremiah for a few weeks, but let's just get right in a little bit. A little taste for Jeremiah. Jeremiah 3, verse 14. And it says here, return, O backsliding children, say to the Lord, for I am married to you, and I will take you, one from a city and two from a family, and I will bring you to Zion. Here it's like, I'm married to you and you're backsliding, right? I'm married to you and you're backsliding. You're chasing other gods, right? There's that. That's why Israel had a problem right here before the captivity. Is like, you worship other gods, then you're allowing these other nations to overtake you. Like, what are you doing? I'm married to you, right? And this is why Jeremiah is known as a weeping prophet. Like, he's weeping because of Israel's disobedience. But anyway, so here it says, keep yourself pure in marriage. And here's everyone. In the marriage, maybe you start to lose passion, right? The lack of passion is in your marriage. Then something's wrong in the system, right? Your wife is not your sexual fantasy. You got to deal with that, right? Again, don't have your cisterns spread out, right? That can also be in your mind, right? Like, deal with it. Job says, let's look at Job. Job chapter 31. Job 31. He said this, 31 verse 1. I have made a covenant with my eyes. Why then should I look upon a young woman? And then Job 31, 9 through 10. If my heart has been enticed by a woman, or if I have lurked at my neighbor's door, then let my wife grind for another, and let others bow down over her. Like, he's making the covenant. No, I'm making the covenant with my eyes, right? I think that's it for that. Okay, the song of love, the foundation of love expressed, the strength of love revealed, methods of love are indicated, experiences of love are described, the songs of love. These are the songs of love. The foundation of love, the mutual fulfillment, the supreme affection, absolutely the exclusion. Each sees the other as the only one. All right, and so let's look at Songs chapter 1 verse 16. Chapter 1 verse 16. And it says here, behold, you are handsome, my beloved, yes, pleasant. Also, our bed is green, and in the beams of our house are cedar, and our rafters are of fire. Sorry. And here's the thing: the bed is green. It's not like it's like prosperous, like it's fruitful. It's fresh. I'm sorry, and that word means fresh. Okay, it's nothing like. There's no grass clippings or anything. No, it's just fresh. Okay, so when I have this understanding that each one, like my other, is the only one, right? And here we have a picture here of the flower in the garden, where this is the only flower I see. This is the only flower I care about. My fountain only goes on this garden, okay? And this is the picture here. But then, the foundation of love, husband's heart picture, okay? As the lily among thorns, so is my love among the daughters. In Psalm 2, chapter 2, verse 2. Okay, so basically there's no other person. You're the only flower I see. Alright, then we have imagery here about the apple tree, the fruit of the tree. Okay, and that, the bride's heart picture. Now, as the apple tree among the trees of the wood, so is my beloved among the sons. I sat down under his shadow, and with great delight, and his fruit was sweet to my taste. Psalms chapter 2, verse 3. And many of you know, but the man is the covering for his wife. He's the authority figure. And also what happens in the bedroom. Okay? And there's a progression of love. And women were designed to receive. And then women submit to the man, and what happens? There's actually fruit. And I probably mentioned before, I've witnessed relationships when it was the other way around, and it's not fruitful. Why? Because that's what God has intended, right? This is the covering, and this is how God has planned it, right? And so I say that with all consciousness, like, you know, I know there's women who still go to church without the husband's consent or approval, right? Well, Colossians 3 verse 18, do everything, wives do everything submitted unto the Lord. So there's like a little airways, like, wait, you know, yes, you listen to your husband, but then, no, you obey me, you submit unto me. But in that case, that's, and I know a woman here, I'm not going to mention her, for many years, she had a lot of friction with her husband about going to church and everything. But in the end of his life, he got saved and he's in heaven now. So, but here's the thing, like, the men are the authority figure, right? And so the strength of love is strong as death. These are mentioned here in the verse. Jealousy is cruel as the grave. The coals thereof are coals of fire, which has a most venomous flame of Yahweh. And many waters cannot quench love, neither can the floods drown it. All right, so these are just certain sayings that the book is mentioning. The methods of love, okay? So this is what we can teach ourselves, right? So, the ways of a husband, okay? So intuition was the approaches as a gentleman, okay? Intimacy is the closeness with honesty. Intensity is strengthening of desire. Irresistible is how we see her in Proverbs 5. I'll just say this, like, men can teach themselves. How long? I don't know how long. And if I had Johnny here, I remember in the first class, I asked you guys, like, how long are you in your professions, right? And I believe he said about 2.5 years for HVAC, and then I asked Joe about nursing and how long she did, and I asked my wife business administration, and then Dexter talked about biochemistry or something bio-related, and these things take long, right? Right? Can you agree that all these programs, certificates, degrees, things take long? Okay. So my question is, how long does it take to be a man of God? How long does it take to be a woman of God? It's the same thing. It takes time, right? So we gotta show ourselves grace. You know, it says in Proverbs, when the righteous man falls 7 times, he gets back up, knowing that there's unlimited source, but knowing that we always can be conformed to his image, and the most loving and gentle way. This is why David said, your gentleness has made me strong, or I always mess that up. Anyway, so we grow in these areas, right? It takes time. And the word, the Bible, is the source of that change. The word, right? Psalm 1 verse 3, right? The water in the river, right? The word is speaking. He's planting me by the river. This is what he's doing, right? So man, it takes time. Yes.
I was just thinking when you were saying that, like, for us to go to school, for us to do what we did, we took the decision just to start that, right? So we can take the decision also to stop the pattern that we coming through, right? Like, okay, I'm no this husband, I'm no this wife, but I can take the decision today to change that. And then, you know, like, okay, and it's gonna take time, but I just have to be available to receive, to learn, to grow. And then, you know, God is going to do the change. So it's just, you know, it's a decision, you know, like I take the decision to go to school. I take the decision to do this, but I also take the decision to submit myself under God and just to hear his voice. Like I just, you know, like to have that picture in my head.
Wow. Oh, that's a good word. That's a good word. That's my Lily, by the way. The methods of love, all right? The ways of the bride, all right? The reception, open ears to gentle words. A response, open arms at his presence. Reliance, find shelter in his covering. Respect, honors with confidence and in his leading, all right? So the woman has security in her life. And these are the kind of the emotions or the responses of that as a bride, okay? The experience of love. Now we know husband has a role, wife has a role. Now here's the experience of love. rest, the essence of the home, order, openness, and opportunity. All right. So where there's no secrets, right? The opportunity is in the home. There's opportunities in the home. Right? There's no secrets. There's opportunity. If you're transparent, right? There's joy. The instance of the relationship, laughter, singing, and sensation. Thank you. Courage, senses of the union, readiness, commitment, and victory. I want to speak on this word, readiness. So it's powerful that a woman is speaking a lot here in this book. But men come home feeling defeated. And this is important, ladies. Like, we need, as men, we need victories, right? We don't need more sorrow. We don't need more pain, right? So with readiness, we need victory, right? And obviously, vice versa, you could put it too. Now, here's the thing. If the bed isn't green, if the kisses are not better than wine, then here's your disorder in the home, right? Here's the disorder in the home. And there's a problem in the system, okay? All right. So, the timing of love, okay? I charge you, O daughters of Jerusalem, that ye stir not up nor awake my love until he please. Songs chapter 2 verse 7, Songs chapter 3 verse 5, Songs chapter 8 verse 4. So there's a warning. Never staffled with scared things, be waiting, sacred things, be waiting, be watching, and be willing. So don't fall in love with lust or things that take you out of the blessing of a marriage. All right, there's a timing in love, right? There's a timing in love. There's also a pattern of love, right? Meeting and courtship, marriage and consumption, rise of difficulties and their resolutions, and deepening and maturity of marriage over time. And I don't have anything. Okay. And then here, key phrase, chapter 4. It's a vivid description in chapter 4. And I'll tell you why. Because in chapter 4, he's, how am I going to say it lightly? He's working down her body. Okay? And what I'm saying, he starts here with her hair in chapter 1. And then in verse 5 talks about her breast. And then I'm not going to continue on, but this is what it's a working down to the body. He's enjoying her in pleasure, all right, as a husband should, as a wife should enjoy her husband as well. So in chapter 4, that's happening, all right. There's a vivid description and a captivated of the heart. But here, this phrase is being used here. It says, "My sister and my spouse." It says it a few times here in chapter 4. I'm just trying to look for at least one. So, verse 10, verse 9. Verse 10, verse 9. My sister and my spouse. So, to encourage like our online audience and for yourselves or people that you advise or people you counsel in your time, like, don't marry an unbeliever. Marry a believer. Why? Because they're your sister first. First, she belongs to God. In 2 Corinthians 6 verse 14, Paul is pleading with this church, don't be unequally yoked. Right? Like, think about this. What would happen in John 4 if the woman of the well was equally yoked with a believer? Right? What would happen?
Be on 5 like her.
She wouldn't have 5, and the one that she was currently with wasn't her husband, right? But instead, now she has 7 men in her life, and only one she's yelling around the city about, right? That was Jesus. So what happens when you're equally yoked? There's a blessing. What happens when you're equally yoked? There's a revelation of Christ. There's a foundation being set so further down. Now, I know. Let's say maybe you're not equally yoked. And by the way, unequally yoked, not just unbelievers, but spiritually you could be unequally yoked too, right? And that's why we, like, those who are strong in the marriage, we continue going forward, right? We can't always retreat back, because we want also our families to be where we are spiritually, but that takes prayer and all that. So, but anyway, you can be unequally yoked with another believer, but the reason why you don't be unequally yoked with a non-believer is because they're not your sister, they're not your brother, right? They don't belong to God. But I know people have marriages and they are unequally yoked, and I've said it, like in John chapter 4, remind them, if you're in an unequally yoked relationship, remind them that you have living water, right? Remind them that you have fulfillment in your heart. Remind them that you know where your eternity or where your heart is. It says in Matthew 6 or 7, it's like, where your heart is where, no, where your treasures are is where also your heart is. Like this is where I'm resigning in after I'm leaving this earth. I know where I'm going. I know my address. I'm living forever in one location, right? So anyway, here it's mentioned in here. But then we know in marriage too, there's a troubled evening here mentioned in chapter 5, 2 through 8, and we can read there. The Shulamite, in verse 2, I sleep, this is her speaking, I sleep, but my heart is awake. It is the voice of my beloved. He knocks, saying, open for me, my sister, my love, my dove, my perfect one. For my head is covered with dew, and my locks with the drops of the night. And I have taken off my robe, and how can I put it on again? I have washed my feet, and how can I defile them? And my beloved put his hand by the latch of the door, and my heart yearned for him. And I rose to open for my beloved, and my hands dripped with mirth, and my fingers were liquid mirth, and on the handles of the lock. And I opened for my beloved, but my beloved had turned away and was gone. And my heart leaped up when he spoke, and I saw him, but I could not find him. And I called him, but he gave me no answer. And the watchmen who went about the city found me, and struck me, and they wounded me. And the keepers of the walls took my veil away from me. And I charge you, O daughters of Israel, Jerusalem, if you find my beloved, that you tell him I am lovesick. And so she in times in marriage like this, times it's not like that saying that honeymoon phase. It's not, the honeymoon's over, right? And this is why it's important, like Ecclesiastes 3, to know God in the season, right? In the marriage, the seasons of life are different, right? Even expecting something, that's a different season, right? One here, okay? So anyway, I'm not trying to have your business out here, but I'm just saying, like, there's a different season, right? Find God in it, right? And it's all beautiful. And what God does, He does forever, right? So anyway, in the story here, it's like she's missing him, he's missing her, and not just missing like, oh, I miss you. No, like they actually, like sometimes there's something that's off, right? It happens in the marriage. It happens. There's not always butterflies, right? People have that expectation about marriage. It's like, oh, it's always excitement, it's always love, and it's always lovey-dovey and all this and that. No, it's not. But know in that relationship, know Him in that season. It's important. Find God in that season. That's a better way of saying it. Love for the life in Psalms chapter 7. A fresh description: maturity, passion, relaxed, released, and free. And in chapter 5, oh no, I mentioned that. Oh yeah, I mentioned all that. Okay, so these are the things in chapter 7 that are mentioned here. A few expressions mentioned here. All right, we're towards the end here. So, what do we need to know? The experience of love is rest, joy, and courage. And the revelation of true love reveals the heart of the highest religious experience. All right? And so I jot down a few things here for this topic here. So you can have a ring in your finger or a thorn in your flesh. Well, God is going to make you mature, and marriage helps. Don't look for a physical appearance, right? Samuel was doing that in 1 Samuel 16:7, right? He was doing that in the house of Jesse. He was looking in Jesse's sons, and it was David, right? And here God said, I don't look at the outward appearance, I look at the heart. And so don't look for physical appearance. Be equally yoked. But if you're in a relation that's not, remind them that you have living water flowing in you. Don't romanticize quickly. Let the relationship grow naturally, right? Remember, it's not calculating. Don't calculate of the things of God, right? People force, especially young people, they force a relationship. It's like, why? Why they get so serious? Why it's so serious? Like, they're supposed to be your best friend before you marry them. So why are you rushing it, right? I get it. Time, right? You want time. Finding a wife or a husband in the body is beautiful. But remember, they're your brother and sister first, right? They belong to God, okay? So, and respecting Him, okay? Here in closing, what do we need to do? Be waiting, be watching, be willing to establish important and intimate relationships. Recognize those relationships are the true foundation of society. Have children and raise them in the fear of the Lord. And again, love and the whole concept it is what God created. He tells Adam and Eve, be fruitful and multiply. And I love this scene too, like the first man that received a woman in mankind, mankind, he fell asleep. He fell asleep. What does that indicate? There's rest. God always provides. And you know what? And what He provides, well, you could say, and actually Pastor Steve said this in a message, I believe, not in class, but Pastor Steve Angelonis, he mentioned this. He said, you know why Adam took the apple? It's because he didn't want to be alone. Remember when Eve was offering that to Adam? Like, and obviously we're over here like, well, what do you do? Why you do that? Like, there's death, and then we have toil under the sun, and there's no satisfaction. But here, like, he didn't want to be alone. Like, what God created was so perfect for him. That was his lily. That was his garden. And like Annie, he didn't want no separation from her. So
He didn't want her to be alone?
no, he didn't want to be himself alone. Like, and this is what God said. Like, man should not be alone. And so, I mean, this is his take. I'm not saying this is added scripture. He thinks that he took that apple because he didn't want to be alone. Like, he found like that his rib was there in his life. So basically saying like there's rest when you're searching in love. Because when you search in love, God provides, right? And this is what we're trying to teach our kids, right? Our sons, our daughters, like just be patient. Like, there's a format. It's not really mechanical or calculating, but there's a format when you trust God, right? When you wait and have your cistern on one garden, right? Not spread out. When there's a blessing, when there's a marriage, right? There's a lot of practical things we can say, but in this book, we can imagine like, okay, he's written this to one woman, and he had many women, but what this one woman has done is created songs out of his heart. So much so that it's like, no, I'm dedicating this to you, right? He's not writing other songs, right? He's writing this one for one person. And just think about this, like how much God adores us. Like in Song of Solomon chapter 4, we see the description of where it's going. Like, we know where it's going, right? The grass is green. We know that the bed is green. We know this, where it's leading. But like how God is just working in us, molding us each way. No, I want to shave that off from you. No. It says like he bottles our tears. Like, I want to take that from you. He counts the hairs on our heads. Oh, I want to come here today. Right? You're the apple of my eye. Like, these are things that he said to us as the bride, right? Like, you're so perfect. You're perfect in me. You're loved by me. You're married to me. Israel, why are you backsliding? Israel, why are you backsliding? Like you belong to me. I'm your husband. I'm all that you need. I'm your satisfaction. I'm your fulfillment. Here in the world, we're looking in the horizontal, right? In the horizontal, we're trying to find that, right? Horizontal, vertical. Anyway, I think I'm right. But like we're looking for it. We're looking for the desires. We're looking for the fulfillment. And you know what? We come empty-handed. We come empty-handed. We come broken. And that's why God has put eternity in man's heart. And the only thing that activate that eternity to heaven is faith. And when I have faith in Christ, and you know, again, 14 years now it's been since I've seen that verse, I can honestly say I have satisfaction. I can honestly say I have fulfillment. And it's not the things that I have or the things that or the people that are around me. It's not, and I love it. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I love my relationships. I love the body. I love everything that I have. But it's the one who created it. It's in me. He's really in me, right? You know, I told you guys my story. I accepted Christ when I was 8, but I really didn't know what that meant, right? I just didn't want to go to hell. That's the one thing I was like, nah, I ain't going there. I heard too much, right? But more and more I'm maturing, more and more I'm like, oh God. Like the times where I used to say like to my mom, like, no, I don't want to go to church. It's a waste of time, right? But now I know it's the source of time. It's the source. And then the source is like every day I'm reflecting who I'm going to be. The same image. That's love, the ultimate love. Love that picks us up when we fall. Love that sees us who we are, truly are through his eyes. It's beautiful. It's beautiful when love is expressed this way, right? This is what God is wanting for all of us to express. And thank you for this time, Lord. Thank you for these words. Thank you, Lord. My dove, my love, this is what you call us, Lord. You're so intimate with us. It's a Yahweh relationship. It's a closeness. You're a God who's close, who wants to stay close. Help us, Lord. Help us in these coming classes, Lord. Continue to mold us. Continue, just like Song of Solomon chapter 4, continue forming us, feeling the edges, the rough edges of our souls, and just consistently caressing and loving and just doing it so gently. You're so merciful. You're so patient. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your you don't even look in time. You say you will be in my reflection, right? The ultimate sanctification. I will be as face to face, and I'll read that one verse. As face to 1 Corinthians 3:18. 2 Corinthians 3:18. Let me read that as we go. 3:18. But we all, with unveiled face, beholding as in a mirror the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image from glory to glory, just as by the Spirit of the Lord. Thank you, Lord. Let it be your image. We in this earth, we're trying to change. We're trying to say words like, I'm trying. But here in this verse, we will be changed. We will be changed. And all you ask of us is just to be in your presence. My love, my dove, your kisses are like better than wine. Like these are the expressions of love. And you want the intimacy, you want the closeness, you want the fellowship. You want, eventually, ultimately you want your name glorified. But Lord, you let us partake in this nature. You let us partake in this fellowship, in this oneness. Thank you, Lord. Help us, Lord, each week, Lord. Help us in a way, change us, Lord. This is week 3, and I know for myself personally, I felt change. I felt like, Lord, you're doing something. You're doing something. Thank you, Lord. I've tried. I tried for years, and you're doing it, Lord. And I do it because it's a source of love. I don't have to. I do it because he loves me that much. Thank you, Father. Thank you for this time. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. Any questions? too much energy. You know, that's religion, right? They try. You know what they miss out? God himself. I don't want to try. I want God to do a change. And he will do a change. He will do it.
Now, doesn't it say somewhere in New Testament, it's Paul, I think that was been talking about, how if a spouse is a believer, but the other spouse is not like divorce that spouse because of the way you act, me,
Yeah.
you know, he doesn't, like, I spent 30 years praying for, you know, for my husband. Although my husband never said I couldn't go to church, or the kids. But he was very Catholic, like raised very Catholic, so didn't have very good experience with that.
Wow.
And, so it took like 30 years, so he just started coming to church the past, I don't know, 3 years now?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man.